Okay, so we have 5 questions to get started, and I'll post these in the chat at this time. You can take a look at them. So the first one is, do you believe there is life on other planets or in our universe or in other universes in space? Why or why not? The second question is, how important is it to explore life on other planets? The third one is, how important is it to visit the moon and Mars? And then the last 2 questions, what are some advantages and some disadvantages? We're going to do a little compare and contrast related to space exploration. And then the 5th question is, what are some challenges of space travel? So we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll take a look at the first question. So do you believe there is life on other planets in our universe, other galaxies or universes? Why or why not? So who would like to try and answer this question? And also, everybody, for these questions, there's no right or wrong answers. So who'd like to try and answer the first question? Hey, Karen, welcome back to class today. Getting started with some warm-up questions. Or we don't have to necessarily go in order. Would any other student like to answer any of these other questions?
I believe there's a life on other planets or in our universe, because the universe is so large, it's so big. We don't know. We haven't explored everywhere.
Okay, it's just there's so much more to explore, but you believe there's life on other planets. And Winhan, how do you imagine that life being? Do you think it could be like microorganisms or vegetation, or do you think it's aliens in relation to the other life, or how do you think that life form would be?
I think there will be intelligent lives like aliens, but we just haven't reached them yet.
Okay, so you think it's intelligent life out there, but the space is so big that there's so much more to explore, and we just haven't found them yet. Okay.
And maybe they know us, but they don't want to interact with us. I don't know. I believe there's alien in the universe.
Okay, yeah, it could be. We still have so many questions unknown and to answer. Joe also mentions that they believe that there's life in in other universes. Joe, do you have a reason why? So they mention if there's a life in our planet, other planets or universe are also capable of producing life. Okay, yeah, that's a really good reason. If we have life here on planet Earth, and there's other galaxies and universes far away, if we're able to have life, then there's able to be life on other locations as well. All right, great. Thank you, Joe and Winhan. What about, does anybody disagree, or do you not believe that there's life somewhere else in space? Do you believe that there's only life here on Earth? Okay, it's a really challenging question to answer, and so many of us, some of us may think we have the answers if we're scientists or military personnel or researchers, but some of us are still kind of questioning this for ourselves. Okay, what about number 2? How important is it to explore life on other planets, such as the moon, the Mars, other planets in our galaxy? Do you think it's important, or do you think it's not very important?
I think it's important and has potential impact to our scientific, technological, and societal benefits. For example, like each planet in our solar system, they have its own unique characteristics and history. And by studying these planets, can provide valuable insights into the evolution of our solar system and the universe. And by exploring other planets, we can learn more about geology, atmosphere, and potential for life beyond Earth. I think and more important, space exploration, like it requires development of advanced technologies. For example, the spacecraft it requires advanced technology and launch vehicles to scientific instruments and the communication systems. All these technologies we can use in many areas of life, like healthcare and transportation, energy production. All this technology we can use to develop our Earth, our system in the Earth.
Okay, yeah, that's a great answer. By exploring other life on other planets or exploring other planets, we have to use advanced technology. We can understand our history a little bit better by understanding the geology. And we can also have evolve into the future with technological advances and developments also related to health and personnel and society as well. Thank you, Winhan. Joe mentions it's important in the faraway future if our planet cannot sustain life anymore the way we are currently using our natural resources and living here on Earth and causing lots of pollution to destroy its resources, then we need to look beyond Earth and see what else we can do. Yeah, that's a great explanation and perspective, Joe. And when Han mentions Avatar, yeah, very similar to that movie. Okay, what about any other students? Would you like to try and answer this one as best as you can? Okay, 3 is very similar. How important is it to visit the moon and Mars? Does anybody have a different answer for this one? Really related specifically to the moon and Mars. So we have not been back onto the moon, the surface of the moon, since we were there before. And we have never had a human on Mars, but we've had rovers. So how important do you think it is to go back to the moon or to try and send some humans to Mars?
I think it's important to visit it because we are already destroying the Earth. So I think it's going to be like a backup in case.
Okay, yeah, great answer, Karen. Very similar to Joe. We're using all of our resources on our Earth, and now we need to start looking beyond planet Earth. Okay, does anybody have an answer in relation to the moon specifically? Do you believe that we should try and go back onto the surface of the moon or explore more about the moon? There's still so much more to be discovered and to be researched. Okay, what about number 4? 4 and 5 are very similar in relation to each other, and these are really important to discuss. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of space exploration? So let's start with the advantages. Okay, and then before we go on to this one, in relation to question 3, Joe mentions the moon is our nearest celestial body to our planet, so it's easier to travel to. It's easier to send maybe supplies to and research. Yeah, it's exactly right, Joe. Okay, so number 4, focusing on advantages and disadvantages to space exploration. We're going to start with the advantages. So just focusing on the advantages, what are some advantages related to space exploration? I know that a lot of you already mentioned some of these. Are there any other advantages that we have not discussed or mentioned so far in class? And you can feel free to unmute yourself or you can put these in the chat.
I think besides technology and the scientific advantages, there are economic benefits of space exploration because it can lead to creation of jobs and has spurred economic growth, development in various industrial such as aerospace and telecommunications. And it's also related to national prestige. You know, it's I don't know how to say prestige.
Prestige.
Prestige, yeah, national prestige. Like if your country landed like space rover like in the Mars or in the moon, it's like it signals your country has advanced technology. It's a way to demonstrate a country's technological power.
Yeah, that's a great explanation, Winhan. Yeah, and just to further develop to show a country's prestige or status in relation to space technology, development of space materials to continue our research outside of our atmosphere and within our solar system or even beyond. Okay, very good. Does anybody have any other advantages that maybe we haven't discussed?
I have. Just give me a moment. Let me just open my assignment. Okay. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Joe.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So the advantages, as far as I know, is I think the advantages I have more than 10. It is an opportunity which which is available to anyone, and it gives us an opportunity to foster genuine cooperation, and it is an effort which require us to become innovative, and it is an opportunity to explore something new, and it creates numerous employment because it involves a lot of fields, right? The science field, and it allows us to understand our planet better and give us a perspective on our place in the universe. It also allow us to identify potential dangers before they strike. It would give us access to new minerals, precious metals, and others useful items.
Thank you.
I think that's it. I need to
Right.
get my ticket.
Hey, you're good, Joe. Yay, great advantages. So in case anybody else didn't hear what Joe mentioned, some of the main things they mentioned is, we can further along our scientific development, kind of in relation to the technological development, but we can continue understanding more about the elements, the minerals, geology, and then one of the biggest things that that's a benefit and advantage is we can understand and maybe locate potential dangers in our galaxy, in our space system that would potentially harm humanity and planet Earth. All right, very good, Joe. Thank you so much, Winhan and Joe. Any other advantages from any other student? All right, okay, then let's move on to the disadvantages. What are some disadvantages of space exploration or space travel?
High cost.
Okay, high cost is one of them, yeah.
Very expensive, and they have environmental impact. The space launches and missions can have like release of greenhouse gases when they launches the rover and the explorer.
Okay, yeah, we have some environmental impacts and that are related to here on Mother Earth. But what about some other environmental impacts? Are there any environmental impacts on space outside of Earth?
I think so. If the rover like exploded in the other planets, we cannot recycle them, right? It's just it just left there forever.
Yeah, it's just floating around in space. So we have space debris and trash or waste. And exactly as Winhan mentioned, it's just kind of floating in space and it's really hard to collect it or really do anything about that. And there's a ton of space debris just floating around outside of Earth. Joe, did you have a comment?
Yes, well, actually, like the last time Apollo 11 was on the moon, they left a lot of garbage there because they have a specific way that when they have to go back to our airspace. They have to leave a lot of things on the moon.
Yeah, they have to leave it behind when traveling back to Earth and coming back into our atmosphere. That's a great comment. All right, guys, what about any other advantages or disadvantages from any other student? Maybe if you're in my class for a makeup session, or if you hadn't had a chance to speak yet, can you think of any other advantages or disadvantages? We have
It take a long time
yeah,
to get the goal result. I mean the goal mission.
yeah, Anissa, that's great, Anissa. It takes a lot of time, dedication, and devotion. The space missions, the research related to the missions, and then traveling within space takes so much time. Uh, Great, Anissa. Hiya, Mahmood. Hey, welcome to class. Do you have a comment you'd like to share with us? All right. Okay. Last question, guys. What are some challenges of space travel?
Hello, sir.
Hey.
This is Hayat Mahmood. I'm here
Hey.
for making class.
Okay, welcome to class.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Hyatt, what are some challenges of space travel? What do you think, or what is your opinion related to this question?
Okay. There are a lot of challenges of space exploration. First of all, the gravitational force. It is in our atmosphere. Our atmosphere helps us to fly. But when it is about space travel, there's no atmosphere like Earth, so it doesn't help us flying. So we have to move around like a sea, or we are floating in a sea. We have to manage that. And second challenge, it is the speed. We have to maintain a great speed to to break the barrier of gravitational force and everything. And when it comes to speed, there comes the third problem. When we gain too much speed, we need something so heavy so it doesn't break. Because when we gain speed, it tends to be fragile because of its great force and the friction with air. It can be fired up at, and it can be destroyed. Then it comes with third problems, another problems like weight. For our for this much great speed, you need a lot of fuels. But in space exploration, you can't increase your weight. If you increase too much weight, then it will create another problems. That's why rockets are made like they left their fuel storage. When it is done, they left their fuel storage behind. That's how they reduce the weight. But indeed, even if you left your fuel storage, you cannot carry too much for yourself. So I can remember this much now, but I think there are a lot of issues with this also. Maybe I need a little bit more time, then I can get some more.
Hey, your answers for this question, they're really great. I really like how you kind of have a very scientific approach to this and you bring in some other variables into our discussion. Yeah, so getting through the Earth's atmosphere, we have to have materials that will not burn or dissipate at very high temperatures. The atmosphere is very, very hot to get through. And so they have to have rockets that will be able to get through the atmosphere without burning up. This has been one of the biggest problems with, I think, space exploration and the travel transportation devices that were made, such as rockets and the shuttles. And exactly as Hyatt also mentioned, is we have to think about the propulsion we have to have enough force to get off Earth in relation to the gravitational pull. But then once we're in space, we can't have all of the weight behind us. So having all of the gas adds a lot of weight. And so we have to have enough power and force and gas to get us off the Earth. But then once we're outside of the Earth's atmosphere, the lower part of the rocket usually is just dislodged. And a lot of times it'll just go back through Earth's atmosphere, some of it burning up and some of it not.
Yeah, there is another problem. We can carry much food or much water. Water is the most important source. If we can carry much water, that means we cannot go too far because we have to recycle our water. Even in recycling, we lose some water. But we may carry some food. Those will keep ourselves stronger. But we cannot carry enough water. So this is another barrier for space travel.
Yeah, that's a great challenge. You're very limited to how much food and water you can store. You don't have an abundant supply. And so you're very limited, and you have to really ration out the water use and the food. And most of the food that's in space, as far as I know, it's dehydrated. So it's food that's been dried out, which is able to be transported and stored for a long amount of time. All right. Hey, thank you so much for adding
There
those.
is another issue. I'm sorry, I'm
It's
just
okay.
adding up too much. I'm just remembering things from those topics. So there is another issue. It's a psychological issue. Even if we spend too much time in space stations or out of Earth, we're not really habituated with this environment. We have to stay alone. So sometimes it is tough to maintain our psychological uh, uh, what does it say, psychological habit and everything. It is uh, it is hard to stay put, stay healthy without family and out of the art. Psychologically it's not easy. Sometimes people from this kind of burnout, people goes insane. People may have lost their brain work ability or can get some heart attack or something before too much tense environment or too much loneliness. That's health issues. What what I'm saying, psychological health issues is a barrier for space travel too.
Yeah, that's a great variable that you're bringing into the discussion. The physical health and the well-being of the physical health and the emotional health and the mental health. It really can take a toll on the astronauts. They have to do a lot of training and preparation to go into space. And as I mentioned, you know, a lot of the astronauts are leaving their families behind, and that can be very challenging to leave your family behind, and especially with the communication, you probably only get so much communication with them when you're millions of miles away. Joe also mentioned the astronauts will be exposed to ultraviolet rays, no protection from our atmosphere, and they are prone to cancers. Yeah, so again, going back to the toll on the physical well-being, there's definitely a toll on the physical body.
And even when we are in like we're in a plane, we're traveling from one country to another for 8 hours to 12 hours. It feels like there's nothing in there. And when it is space, it feels like we're in prison. There's nothing uh, uh, without the what is say the holes. Nothing. This nothingness make people drive people crazy sometimes.
Yeah, to be to be in solitude or to be confined. Um, great. Okay, any final comments or questions related to our warm-up questions?